Let's blow this up.
Look alive, Bomb Squad. It is time for another episode of Let's Blow This Up. I am Jason Cercone, your gracious host. Glad to be with you here once again. And tonight, I was about to say that I'm flying solo, but how could I possibly say that I'm flying solo when I have you and the Bomb Squad here hanging out with me live? Tonight, I'm doing things a little bit differently, and I absolutely won't be keeping you here for an hour because I touched on this a little bit last week when I was talking with Karen Freeland. Time for a little bit of change here on the show. And the reason why I'm going down this path is because, it's funny because I started this show with the mindset of having these really epic, unscripted conversations. And for whatever reason, I did not think they were all going to be about podcasting. Of course, that's the world that I am playing in on a daily basis, and I have absolutely no problem with that. But it's also why I have another podcast called Podcast Theory that is 100% dedicated to the art, business, and science of podcasting. So my thoughts initially with Let's Blow This Up were that things would unfold a little bit differently. To err is human. Because what I've discovered over the past, God, I think it's been almost every episode here in the live stream, podcasting has come up in some way, shape, or form. And I've gone back and I've listened to all the episodes, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversations that I've had the privilege of having. I hope you've enjoyed watching them live or listening to them via the podcast feed. So to take you back in time, because I know I've talked about this a little bit in the past, Let's Blow This Up was designed to be rolled out in season format. So I was going to do seasons, and I started off with season 1, which went great. And then I had some of the crew from season 1 join me here on the world premiere of the live stream. The live stream, of course, was meant to come at you weekly, just like you're experiencing right now. And I was going to, again, have these conversations. It was going to be a little bit of a different vibe, but at the same time, capture some of what you experienced during season 1. Those were all unscripted conversations. They just were pre-recorded. They weren't live. But as I said, I never had that thought of making this show be 100% dedicated to podcasting and all of the intricacies that go into that industry. But here we are. I've discovered, as I said, going through these episodes, that that's where the talk seems to go. I think it speaks very strongly to the fact that, for one, I've got a lot of people in my circle that are in the podcast space. So they're the ones that have been reaching out, wanting to join me, or I've reached out to them and asked them to join me here because I know what they have to say is going to have a great impact on you in the Bomb Squad. So I'm going to go off track here. I was waiting for Mark to comment, but John Lacey's breaking in here and saying, happy birthday to Mr. Mark Ronick. And yeah, Mark, if you are watching, happy birthday, sir. Drop me a comment. Let me know you're here. That goes to anybody else in the Bomb Squad. If you're tuning in live, please drop some comments. Let me know you're here. And as I share some of the recent developments that are happening with this show and all of my other podcast projects, I would love some live feedback as we go through all of this stuff tonight. So if you're here live, thank you very much. If you're catching the replay, hope you're enjoying that as well. So nevertheless, to get things back on track here, as I said, when I was originally laying out the plans for Let's Blow This Up, the live stream was going to be part of it, but I had in my mind that I was going to get back to doing seasons that were all themed. And the more I thought about it, I've been leaning very heavily into live streaming and absolutely loving it. I'd never really done it like a full-on initiative in the past. I've done live videos here and there, but never really focused on all of the core competencies that go into live streaming. And over the past few months, I've really put my attention there and discovered for so many reasons why I love this environment and why I feel this method of content creation is phenomenal for anybody that wants to undertake it. But for me personally, it absolutely serves my needs and serves my schedule. But at the same time, I'm learning and evolving as we go. So you may have noticed already with tonight's production that I dropped the word live from the logo. How do I do that? Okay, yeah, right there. So the word live has been dropped from the logo, and it's just going to be known as Let's Blow This Up. Because what I'm going to do with this show going forward is, starting now, this is going to be as it's been for the past, I think this is the 13th episode in what I deemed as season 2 of the live stream series. I'm going to keep building on it in this capacity. And I'm going to keep doing these live streams every Wednesday, but I'm removing the word live because, again, the podcast portion, the audio portion of this that goes live on Fridays, is just as important as the live stream. So whether you're joining me live so you can actually participate, drop comments, drop questions for me or the guests that join me, or you're catching the audio replay on your favorite podcast app every Friday, that's all great. I'm glad you're here for the ride. And I want to make sure that all of this production, whether it be through the live stream or the audio component, comes to you in a very powerful, impactful fashion. So dropping live is just a small tweak, and I changed the color of the logo as well. That was just a decision. Actually, I don't even say that was my decision. I actually threw up a couple logos. That sounded bad. I actually put up a couple logos on Instagram for my people to look at, and I let them vote on which one they like better. And I'm noticing now, son of a bitch, I can't believe I just realized this now. This logo's wrong. This is the wrong logo. Let's see if I actually uploaded the right logo. I did not. Wow. Well, okay. So the new logo is not in the upper right-hand corner for my live audience tonight. Thank you very much. That will be there next week. So I'm going to have a little talk with John here. I must admit, I've always listened to the podcast later on. This is the first time joining live. Well, John, I appreciate you being here with me live. And I think that is what I've been experiencing thus far. Now, again, I don't put any stock on the fact that we get a few viewers here each week for the live stream, but I look at everything as an ongoing process. My goal is to continue to get better and to grow this platform and gain more viewers. I got to earn the viewership, right? Got to earn the listenership. I've definitely seen more people tune into the replay on the podcast, and maybe it has something to do with the time slot, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But I'd be doing myself a disservice now that I've effed up the logo. I'll have the new logo here for you next week, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, here, I'm going to do this for our live audience. The new show cover of Let's Blow This Up Live, or actually, here I'm screwing up. Let's Blow This Up, explosive conversations with badass brand podcasters. That is where we are going with this show going forward. The idea, again, having seen all of these conversations unfold and getting to be a part of them, obviously, my show. Glad you could be here to watch and listen, but I have absolutely loved what we've created up to this point, and I want to keep building on that. I want to continue to have these great conversations, and because I'm having so many great podcasters join me here on the show, I decided, why not lean into this 100%? Actually deem the show all about podcasting for businesses. So going forward, which again, I know I mentioned this to Karen last week when we were talking about this, it's such a subtle change because it's not going to deviate too far from what we've been doing anyway. We have so many people joining me here on the show that have experience in podcasting that's going to continue. But in addition to that, I also want to talk to the aspiring podcasters, bring them on to have those conversations, discover why they want to go down this path. Everybody has their own reasons why, but discovering what that why is and putting it front and center, that's going to make your longevity come out in this space, because we have so many podcasters or aspiring podcasters that don't get beyond a few episodes. And a lot of it comes down to lack of planning. A lot of it comes down to no strategy. And a lot of it comes down to getting into this for the wrong reasons. And my goal with Let's Blow This Up, with Podcast Theory, which I'll talk about here in a moment, is to make those connections with current and aspiring podcasters and keep them motivated to continue building upon the project that they've started. as I said, so many people come into this. I know I've talked about this stat ad nauseum at this point, and it's may have changed, may have fluctuated even in the last few weeks or months, but 90% of new podcasters don't get past 3 episodes. That is sad because this medium is not all about massive downloads right out of the gates, which many people come into this thinking they're going to get. And then when they don't, they realize that they're doing a lot of work, but they're not getting the return on the front end. I don't know who the hell ever told them that the front end return was big, because this takes time. You have to establish yourself as a credible host, as a credible producer. You have to make an impact on your audience and prove to them that you are going to be there consistently with good content that they want to sink their teeth into. That in turn is going to make them turn to others in their audience, and it's going to make them say, oh my gosh, I've been loving this podcast. You will too. And then you can get that exponential growth started, but it takes time to develop that audience. I know I take it very personally, and I know I've talked to many other podcasters that feel they want to do their part to make new podcasters and maybe even seasoned podcasters that might be questioning whether they're doing this right, or if they're even in this for the right reasons, or if they're ever going to experience some kind of breakthrough with their podcast, to keep at it, to keep developing content, keep getting really freaking good at what you do, and those results will come because you're naturally going to develop your skill set. The more you turn on the microphone, you turn on the camera, you make connections and have impactful, meaningful conversations. There's a lot to learn from this experience. And it's not just about developing content. It's about the relationships that you build. It's about the skills that you develop, because the speaking skills that you develop here on the microphone for a pod or during a podcast or doing a podcast are going to translate to other areas of your life, both personally and professionally. How you communicate with loved ones, how you communicate with colleagues and clients, how you close sales, how you tell stories. There's so much to gain from all of these things you can learn. But if you're thinking strictly monetary, it's going to be a little bit disappointing. Now, not saying that you can't monetize. There are ways to do that. If you listen to my episode and my conversation with Lloyd George, he covered some great avenues that you can explore. At the same time, jump back in the archives, listen to my conversation with Simona Costantini. We had some tremendous breakthroughs of our own about things that we learn that are intangibles that come along with producing a podcast. That to me is where this is at. And all of that will be defined in your why. So I'm venturing slightly off track here, but to bring it back to zero, Let's Blow This Up is dedicated to speaking to badass brand podcasters who are doing great things in this space in a variety of different areas, from guesting to content repurposing to matching people in the podcast space to production to making their own shows. There's a wide variety of different things happening in the podcast space, and I'm looking to make those connections on this show and really embellish what these people are doing. The conversations will remain completely unscripted, as you've become accustomed to. And to me, I feel that's where the best content comes from, because everybody is organic. Nobody is thinking they're going to get grilled. And I'm not sitting here trying to run off a list of questions just because I have a show and I could run off a list of questions if I wanted to. I'm interested in having these great conversations and bringing them to you. And I am glad that you are joining me to watch them take place. And again, if you're watching live, you can always drop comments and questions and join the show. Hey, Mike, there's a past guest joining us here. I'm glad to see you in the house, my friend. And I appreciate that you like where this is going. Have to have you back in the show, and we'll do that all over again. So I mentioned the time slot. This is fun. I threw this poll up on Instagram as well, and then I actually asked some people in person what they thought, because listen, okay, here's why I went with 8 o'clock. To me, I remember, this is slightly nostalgic, and maybe to some degree this still happens on television, but the primetime lineups on network television used to always start at 8 o'clock p.m. And I was thinking, okay, and if you remember, because I do, Thursday night was the prime night, and NBC always had that 9 o'clock time slot, and that was reserved for the best sitcoms that NBC ever had. Now, I remember this starting with The Cosby Show, and I'm sure even before my time, there was something in that time slot that was worthy of that 9 o'clock time slot. But The Cosby Show, before his whole ordeal. And let me think what came next. Seinfeld. Well, Cheers was after that in that time slot. Seinfeld was in there. Friends, The Office. You go right down the list of many of the great shows that NBC ran that was always at 9 o'clock. But to speak to the point, 8 o'clock was where all the network shows began. That's why I felt like this would be a good time to start this show. What I didn't take into consideration is that we're all old as hell now. And pretty much across the board, everybody that voted on whether to change the time slot from 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the people that I asked in person across the board, everybody wanted 7 o'clock p.m. Now, personally, I don't mind that change at all, because as I said last week talking to Karen, once I finish the actual live stream, usually we have a little BS session just talking after the show's over, and then I go into post-production to get the audio format ready for Friday. Now that I'm bumping this up an hour, I'll get myself an hour's sleep back, because I still plan on doing that. So, going forward, every Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Let's Blow This Up will be coming your way. Now, I've also thought about, and this is not official yet, this is just something that I'm thinking about down the road. I may go to 2 episodes a week. And the reason why is, A, I love going live and I love having these conversations. B, I want to get more content out there. I want to grow Let's Blow This Up into the biggest possible entity I can. And I know that requires more content. So if it gets to a point where I can manage doing 2 episodes a week, I'm going to make that happen. But for now, every Wednesday, as it's been, but we're going to go live at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then every Friday, the audio component of this podcast will go live. I hope you're looking forward to a continued fun ride, because I know I've been having an absolute blast doing this show. And I'll tell you, the guests that I've got lined up for the rest of August, I know I'm going to have a great time with them too. So next week is Lindsay Phillips, and we had to reschedule Lindsay's session with me from July due to an unfortunate death in her family. But now she's going to join me next week, and we're going to tackle content repurposing. And that's a subject near and dear to my heart. So I hope you can join me for that, because there is going to be a lot of great information unpacked in that episode. The following week, I'll be joined by none other than Paula Sema. Now, if you don't know Paula, this is one of the most energetic, just absolutely crazy personalities that I have ever met in the podcasting space. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet. I do know we're going to talk about how her podcast has helped her develop her personal brand, because I'm going to make her do that whether she likes it or not. But if you've met Paula, if you're at Empowered Podcasting, or you follow her on social media, or you listen to her podcast, you know this girl is a spark plug, and she's got a lot of value to bring to the show, as does my guest on August 28th, Nicole Eaton. And Nicole is bringing a wealth of knowledge in the coaching space, in the podcasting space. She's an author. She's got so much value to bring to the show. So August is going to be a very strong month. And I'm not going to drop any big spoilers about September, but I've been having some good conversations with some people and looking forward to who I will have on the show in September as we roll into, I guess that's what, Q4? Or is that official? I don't know. Whatever. Or that's short. No, whatever. That's short 1 month, whatever. September is going to be a fun month too. So stay tuned. I'll have plenty of information on you there. So that brings us up to speed on what's been happening with Let's Blow This Up. Next, podcast theory. So a lot of this is an extension of my conversation with Karen Freeland from last week. So if you haven't listened to that episode yet, highly encourage you to go back and consume that content, because Karen and I dove into a lot of things. And one of the items that I mentioned to her was the ongoing dilemma that I was having with myself in regards to how I was going to produce podcast theory. Podcast theory, I will say, I mean, over the years, this poor podcast, I've done so much with this show that I would advise a lot of people not to do. It was called Pod Theory when I first launched it. I was going for that short, easy to say thing, but not thinking SEO. When I went into the third season of the show, I rebranded it with a new name, but then realized that should have just been the title of the season. Went to Podcast Theory, which makes much more sense because of the content that I talk about. And the fourth season was all about going live. And I was going live on a daily basis. That was the plan anyway. But what I couldn't dial in was when I was going to go live each day. And that was throwing everything off. What I discovered in doing that, again, the ambition to go live, I want to continue doing that. So I want to keep that going with Podcast Theory as well. But what I couldn't figure out was how was I going to get viewers when I'm not giving them a time? That was the hardest part because I couldn't land on the best time for my schedule. And what was happening was I'd go live and I'd get a viewer here and there, but overall, it really wasn't that much. The one time that I was very intentional about the time, I had a nice viewing audience. Go figure. So what I'm going to do with Podcast Theory is I'm removing the live from that as well. And I am going to keep the focus on podcasting for businesses. So this really isn't much of a change on Podcast Theory either. But what I'm going to do for now is 2 episodes a week. They are going to come at you on Tuesdays and on Fridays at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, will I be 100% live every episode? No. I'm going to do some of them, quote unquote, live to tape, meaning I'm going to pre-record them and I will schedule them to go live so you can watch live, and then the audio will be available shortly after so you can consume it on your favorite podcast app. Some of the episodes I will go live, some I won't. And that's same with Let's Blow This Up. There are going to be times where I do some pre-recorded episodes and I will do a disclaimer at the beginning of each episode just so you know that if I'm not 100% officially live and the comments that you might want to leave just really wouldn't resonate because we're not live here to answer them, you'll know. So on the Podcast Theory episodes, I will let you know that as well. And then again, audio component coming at you Tuesday and Friday as well. So you're getting 2 episodes of Podcast Theory per week. That's going to start on August 20th, Tuesday, August 20th. I believe that's the date. Now I've got to double check myself. I know I had that committed to memory, and then it completely slipped my mind. Tell me I'm right. Yep, Tuesday, August 20th. That's where we're going to re-debut Podcast Theory Live, and that will be coming at you 2 days a week live. And a big change with that, I had only been running those lives on YouTube, the Bombtrack Media YouTube channel. I'm now going to do them on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. I felt, why should I be depriving the audience on LinkedIn and Facebook of this content? If they want to watch it, it could be there as well. Also, you can connect to everything at bombtrackmedia.com/live. I'll be making some updates to that page too, so it contains the previews for Podcast Theory as well as Let's Blow This Up. So in continuing to build that, I'm going to do those 2 episodes a week. But one of the big aspects that I wanted to lean into with Podcast Theory was developing these seasons with a featured co-host. And I'm absolutely going to be doing that as well. In fact, I've already had a couple of conversations for upcoming seasons. So as you see those live stream let me say that over again. As you see that live stream content coming from Podcast Theory as it is right now, that's going to continue to get filed under season 4. And then the new episodes and the new seasons will all be season 5, season 6, so on and so forth. So 2 different ways of content coming at you, but the whole idea is to give you that strong focus on business podcasting. How can you use the podcast medium to grow your business, to grow your brand, to attract new clients, to position yourself as an authority in your space? Somebody that wants to do business with you. How are they going to find you? How are they going to build trust in you? Your podcast can serve as that 24/7 salesperson. And I want to talk about those various elements of how you do that through podcast theory, as well as let's blow this up. So both podcasts are going to be dedicated to the art, to the science, to the psychology, and to the business of podcasting. Because at Bombtrack Media, that's what I'm trying to focus on, internally and externally. No matter how you want to use podcasting in your business, there are ways that you can get this done, and you can do this in a powerful, impactful way. And this podcast is going to be a resource. Actually, both podcasts, Let's Blow This Up and Podcast Theory, are going to be resources that allow you to learn, to grow, to develop your skill sets. And if you're joining me live, it gives you an opportunity to ask questions, not just of me, but of my guests. And I want to also try this, and this will be something we do down the road, going into something like forums or having a few people, I guess we call them more panel discussions. But as the audience grows, I want to make sure that we have people here that be willing to ask some questions and be a part of that. So if you have questions about podcasting, how you can use it for your brand, those panel discussions or even these live streams are the perfect environment for you to ask those questions and get some answers. So Podcast Theory returns on August 20th. That's a Tuesday, 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to try to go live just because it's the return episode. I don't want to just put something out there that's not 100% live. But as I said, if I'm not 100% live, there will be a small disclaimer as that show drops, so you know. And of course, you can always catch it in the audio format on your favorite podcast app, probably around, I'd say around 1 o'clock. That gives me enough time to turn that around and make it a podcast for you. So if you've been here for any of that, I'm glad you're a part of this experience. You are an official member of the Bomb Squad, and I love having you along for the ride. One last thing I wanted to touch on before I sign off for the evening. This is something that I'm also working on now. I have a second YouTube channel, which is actually my bigger channel. It's at Jason Cercone. If you're not subscribed to that, you can go ahead and do that when we're done here. But I am trying to figure out a way to use that channel in what I'm doing. And I think I've found at least one thing that I can do. I've talked about this a couple times, and I'm trying to remember where. So maybe this is news to you. Maybe this is the first time you've ever heard this. But when I was at Empowered Podcasting back at the end of June, I had a phenomenal time. I got to do some MC work. I got to lead a panel discussion, and I had some compliments come my way that I wasn't expecting. People were saying how great of a job I did. I had people that weren't even in the room come up to me and say, I heard you did great. I wish I would have been there for it. That really hit home with me. And it made me start thinking about where I really want to go. And a lot of this work that I've been doing on the microphone has been to develop speaking skills that will translate to a live stage. So I've been in preparation mode, we'll call it for now, of going onto stages, getting ready for that. And where I really want to get to, and I'm not saying this is going to be something that happens quick, but I want to get myself to a point where I can do a TED Talk. That's my big goal right now. And I've started that journey, at least in the training side of things, just watching TED Talks on YouTube, just to expose myself to what these folks are doing. The speaking skills are unbelievable. Even with those compliments, even with having done presentations before and receiving good feedback, I know I have a long way to go. And something that I want to work on in a major way is my storytelling ability. So what I've decided to do on the Jason Cercone YouTube channel is launch a new live stream called the Cercone Chronicles. And I'm only sharing the logo with you tonight because I like it. I think it's kind of cool. I haven't announced or even thought of the official launch date for that series, but it's probably going to be a 1 to 2 time a week deal. And the idea is to not just talk about the business side of things. I want to talk about life experiences. I want to tell some stories from my past. I want to talk to you about what you're doing in that arena, whether you're in podcasting, whether you're in any manner of business. I don't know if it's going to be a show where I'm bringing guests on. It may be, but For now, the Cercone Chronicles is meant to document this journey that I'm putting myself on from very novice, somewhat experienced speaker through the microphone on a podcast to getting to that big stage, getting to do that TED Talk, getting to be in a position where I'm telling stories to a massive audience. Many times have I finished off some social media rants with, "Thank you for coming to my TED Talk." Now I want to do that for real. So I plan on using the Cercone Chronicles live stream to tap into that storytelling ability. And the reason why I haven't pinpointed a date for that yet is because I don't want to shoot too big on this right now. I want to get this right. And as I continue to prepare and I continue to do my own due diligence in getting ready to take that journey, which of course at some point is going to be hiring a coach, someone that can really direct me in the right way and tell me what I'm doing right, tell me what I'm doing wrong, help me get this shit right. For now, I feel like this is my pulpit. This always has been, at least for the past 10 years that I've been doing podcasting. I've always felt the most comfortable here. And I still know, I get it. It was one of those things today. I for whatever reason, because I hadn't gone live in a solo format in a few weeks, I had some nerves. And those nerves melt away usually 30 seconds into the thing going live and me starting to talk. But you still get that feeling inside. These are all things that I feel are good to have, and I'm 100% certain it's something that's going to come when I'm on a stage as well. But I'll be continuing to teach myself how to embrace those fears and embrace those nerves, use them to my advantage, learn to tell good stories with clarity and with confidence. Over almost 10 years of podcasting, I feel like I've gotten into a great spot in doing that here, but I want to keep getting better. At no point will I ever get complacent with developing my skill set on this show, on Podcast Theory, on the Cercone Chronicles, on any live streams that I do anywhere else, or any guest appearances that I make anywhere else, or any stages that I appear on. I know I've got a small presentation that I'm going to be doing next week. This is all about bringing the skill set to a whole new level. I could say this about my experience in Charlotte. Because I had been embracing the live stream environment so much and going live very consistently, when I grabbed that microphone to begin running that stage, zero nerves, none. I just immediately grabbed it and owned it. Now, this wasn't a massive audience. So, and of course, no one was expecting that, but there's still sometimes that initial fear of how am I going to communicate to this audience? Because of the live stream work I had been doing, I felt like I just naturally, seamlessly shifted into the mode of grab that mic and own the freaking room. That's something that I want to take to a higher level with more subject matter of my own. And I know it's going to take time to develop all of that. It's going to take time to develop the skill set, but I'm here for it. I'm not trying to jump the shark. I'm not trying to go way too fast with this. I want to be deliberate. I want to be intentional. I'm going to use this podcast to continue honing my storytelling abilities. I want to get more clear and more concise with how I'm communicating with you in the Bomb Squad. And as I'm having these conversations, I've been going back and listening to these conversations that I've had very meticulously because I've gotten myself back into that analytical mindset of what can I be doing better? What can I be doing differently? And I'm going to continue to build on that with everything that everything that you're experiencing tonight and all the other podcasts and live streams that you consume from me going forward. So to recap what's been happening, a lot of analyzation, a lot of time in the lab over the past few weeks, just tweaking some things and figuring out the best way to proceed with a number of different items. And speaking of that, I'm not going to go into commercial mode, but please jump over to bombtrackmedia.com/VIP. I have dialed in those VIP experiences. So if you are looking to hone your podcast, get it right, or if you're aspiring and looking to get a brand new show off the ground, come talk to me. I think I've got something. Actually, I don't think. I know I've got something that is absolutely going to help you do this the right way. Because if you don't know it by now, it's not just about download numbers. It's not just about the content. It's all about doing this in a way where your mindset is strong and you're doing it for the right reasons. These are all things that we are going to cover in the VIP experience. So that is the end of the commercial for the evening, but bombtrackmedia.com/VIP. Go check it out. That is the end of the commercial, I swear. And I have to agree with Tamron here. Very important. Growing up organically, I'm here for it. And I feel like a lot of what I've done over the past 10 years in this space has been a lot of organic growth. That's something that many people don't have the patience for. And you absolutely have to have it. You have to get to a point where you're willing to put in the time, you're willing to put in the practice swings. I've been golfing since I was 7. I'm still not that good. I'm okay. But I know that the more practice swings that I put in, the better I'm going to be. And when I go long periods without playing, that's usually when I suck because the practice swings have been lacking. Even coming into this tonight, like I said, this is my first solo live stream in a few weeks. I can't even remember when I did the last podcast theory live. And there was that thought in my head, what's this going to be like? How am I going to do? Of course, I got myself over that real quick. But it's all about these reps. It's all about these practice swings. It's all about willing to put in the time to do this in a way that you bring longevity into play. You try to get too far ahead, you try to get instant results, you try to do all of this for all the wrong reasons, you're going to crash and burn. This is something I cover very extensively in the VIP experiences, but that's also something you're going to hear me talk about a lot here on this podcast, because for me, a lot of this comes down to mindset. If you're not podcasting for the right reasons, if your mindset's fucked, you are going to get terrible results. Pardon my French. So to recap, let's blow this up. No more live, just let's blow this up every Wednesday at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Bombtrack Media YouTube channel, on the Bombtrack Media Facebook page, and on my personal LinkedIn page. Then the podcast version on your favorite podcast app every Friday. Podcast Theory will go out on Tuesdays and Fridays as well. Just realized I'm dropping 2 podcasts for you on Friday. I don't know why I didn't make that connection before. So you get a double dose of Jason C. on Fridays. So listen to Podcast Theory, listen to Let's Blow This Up on the podcast apps, and let me know what you think by dropping a review. I don't ask for those very often. Quite frankly, I like the one-on-one personal feedback when I get messages, when I get people telling me I listened to your show, like John did tonight, so that he's been joining the audio versions. I think that's great. I like hearing that much more than just getting those comments and those reviews on Apple Podcasts. Not to say that I don't appreciate those, but I don't ask for those. And I know most podcasts end with, leave me a review. Let me know what you think. I'm not going to ask for that. If you are impacted by the content enough to be moved to do that without me prompting you, then I know I did my job. So we're going to leave it at that. Finally, Cercone Chronicles, as I said, recapping here, that will be going live on my Jason Cercone YouTube channel. You can go subscribe to that now. There's a lot of good podcast content on there from things I've done in the past if you want to catch up on a lot of the archives. But for now, I haven't been putting any new videos there. I'll get things reinvigorated when that new live stream begins. And I will let you know when that's going to happen. Stay tuned to Let's Blow This Up, to Podcast Theory, or anywhere that you can find me on the internet. Please connect, reach out, say hello, become a friend. Don't be a dick about this. It's going to be fun to hang out in that environment. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you there. That is going to do it for this installment of Let's Blow This Up, changing things up a little. It's been a wild ride so far. As I've said a few times, this live streaming thing, damn drug. It got me addicted fast. And that's one of the reasons why I'm still toying with maybe doing 2 episodes of Let's Blow This Up per week. We'll see. We're going to start with 1. keep this a little bit more manageable, and we'll grow from there. But I'm glad you're here for the ride. If you joined in live, drop the comment. Thank you very much for being here. If you just were watching from afar, thank you for watching. And if you're checking this out on the audio component, I'm glad you're here. Please subscribe and follow the show. Tell one person in your circle how much you're getting from this podcast and from this live stream so they can check it out as well. Next week, Wednesday, August 14th at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, our new time slot, I will be joined by Lindsay Phillips. As I said earlier, Lindsay and I are going to tackle the world of content repurposing. If you're not doing this with your podcast content to date, then you absolutely need to tune in and hear what Lindsay has to say, hear what I have to say, because I know we are both strong proponents. We are both strong proponents of the repurposing aspect for ghosts, Jesus, for guests and for hosts. Just want to combine the two. Ghosts, baby. If you aren't repurposing, you're leaving a lot of meat on the bone. So tune in next week and discover how you can get every piece of meat off that bone, clean your plate, get some good tips, have some good laughs. Lindsay's a lot of fun. I had a blast on her podcast, and she's going to have a blast on mine. I am making the prediction now. So I'm going to officially sign off on tonight's episode of Let's Blow This Up. I'm glad you could be here with me. Until our paths cross again next week, this is Jason Cercone on Let's Blow This Up, reminding you to stay explosive. We'll see you next week.